Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and welcome back to this next video. And in this video, I'll be going to talk about an important concept in genetics, which is the androgen insensitivity syndrome. For short, you can call this is the AIS. So, to understand the androgen insensitivity syndrome, first we need to look at the normal biological sex development in humans. So, when you talk about the humans, when they are reproducing, they go through the process of the meiosis. They are going to produce the eggs and the sperms, and the egg and the sperm they are going to combine with each other to give you the fetus. So, when you talk about the females during the process of the meiosis, all of the gametes they have got the X chromosome. When you talk about the male during the process of the reproduction, during the process of the meiosis, they produce two kind of the gametes. 50% of them contain the X chromosome, 50% of them contain the Y chromosome. So, if a fetus is getting an X chromosome from the mother, the only chromosome that she can get from the female parent, and if she is getting an X chromosome from the father, a female fetus that is going to develop. But if the mother is providing the X chromosome, the father is providing the Y chromosome, that is going to lead to the development of a male fetus. When you talk about these females, so they are going to have two X chromosomes. They have ovaries, which are responsible for the production of the estrogen, which ultimately lead to the development of the female reproductive internal and external organs. When you talk about the males, so you are going to have one X and one Y chromosome. They are going to have testes. Then these testes they are responsible for the production of the androgens like the testosterone, which ultimately lead to the production of the male reproductive internal and external organs. But when you talk about this AIS, something unusual that is happening. If you look at this particular image, you will be seeing that you are looking at a very normal female, but this is not normal. This is having an XY, and when you talk about the XY, we usually say that this is going to be a male. But when you talk about the androgen insensitivity syndrome, because of the defects in the androgen receptor, the XY it is not going to develop into a normal male. What happens is when you talk about these XY male, which are having the androgen receptor defect, you are going to see the cryptorchid testes. You are going to see no axillary or pubic hair, and there is no penis or scrotum. So the free testosterone, which is produced by these, you can say testes, that is going to be aromatized to the estrogens, which is resulting in the breast development. So you might be thinking that estrogen is present in the male. Of course, you are very right, but there is a balance maintained between the estrogen and the testosterone when you talk about the male and the females. And because of the defect, because of the androgen receptor defect in the androgen insensitivity syndrome, there is an imbalance of the estrogen and the testosterone, which ultimately lead to the production of the breast in these females. And you are going to see no uterus or no ovaries in the patients with the androgen insensitivity syndrome. Genetically, the AIS is a genetic condition where the body cannot respond properly to the male hormones like the testosterone. And the reason that is very obvious. There is problem with the androgen receptor, and we are going to see in detail that in a while, that when there is defect in the androgen receptor, what happens. This AIS is an X-linked recessive disorder. So this means that the gene is present is going to be that the gene is present on the X chromosome. That would mean that if this is a recessive disorder, that means both copies of this particular gene they are going to be defective. So when you talk about these XY, that would mean that the gene on this particular X chromosome that is going to be defective, and there is no gene of course on the Y chromosome for the androgen receptor. So we are talking about an X-linked recessive disorder, and this X-linked recessive disorder that is actually going to be caused by the defective androgen receptors, which are responsible for interaction with the androgens. So let us talk in detail about the you can say androgen receptor. So as I've told you that the gene that is going to be located on the X chromosome. As I've told you in my last video that the SRY gene on the Y chromosome that is going to activate genes that convert the bipotential gonad into the testes. I've told you that when you talk about the fetus, it is going to have a bipotential gonads that can be converted into the testes, that can be converted into the ovaries, and the SRY gene that is actually responsible for the conversion of the bipotential gonads into the testes. And the absence of the SRY gene that is going to convert this bipotential gonad into the ovaries, leading to the formation of a female fetus. Whenever we talk about the androgen receptor interaction mechanism, or whenever you talk about any signaling pathway, there should be a ligand and there should be a receptor. So when you talk about the ligand, so the testes that are going to produce the ligands, so the testes are not the ligands that are going to produce the ligands, which are known as the androgens. So the androgens in this particular case, that could be the testosterone, that could be the dihydrotestosterone. So this is going to be the ligand. So if there is a ligand, there should be a receptor for this. And the receptor that is known as the androgen receptor, and very logically named, because if the ligand is the androgen, so the receptor should be the androgen receptor. Let us talk about in detail about the different domains that are present in the androgen receptor. So the first domain that is present in the androgen receptor, that is the ligand binding domain, and this is the region where the testosterone that is going to bind. The second important region that is present in the androgen receptor, that is known as the hinge region. This particular hinge region is containing a very important region which is known as the nuclear localization signal, and this nuclear localization signal is very important for the movement of the activated receptor from the cytoplasm into the nucleus of the cell. The third important region, that is the DNA binding domain, and this DNA binding domain that is responsible for binding to specific DNA sequences which are known as the androgen response elements. And then you have got an N-terminal domain which is responsible for the activation of transcription and which interacts with the other regulatory proteins. So this is going to be the whole structure of the androgen receptor, with the important domains present in this particular receptor. If you cartoonically look at this, so this is going to be the N-terminal domain, this is going to be the DNA binding domain, and this is going to be the ligand binding domain. And to this particular domain, both the testosterone and the dihydrotestosterone, both of them, they can bind. So if there is a ligand like the androgens, there should be a receptor. So when the testes, they produce these ligands, the androgens, the testosterone or the dihydrotestosterone, that would mean they are going to be released into the bloodstream. And when the testosterone or the dihydrotestosterone that are released into the bloodstream, they can go and they can interact with their receptors. This is the receptor. This is, you can say, a whole diagram how the things they are going to happen. When you talk about the testosterone, we talk about the dihydrotestosterone. Both of them, they are lipid soluble and they can directly enter the targeted cells. When you talk about the cell signaling, we usually talk about two major classes of the ligands. One, they are known as the hydrophilic ligands. The other one, they are known as the hydrophobic or the lipid soluble ligands. So when you talk about the testosterone or the dihydrotestosterone, is they are lipid soluble, they can directly move through the cell membrane into the cytoplasm of the cell. When you talk about the hydrophilic one, they have to interact with the receptor present on the surface of the cell, because they cannot directly enter into the cytoplasm through the cell membrane, because the cell membrane that is hydrophobic in nature. So when you talk about the testosterone and the dihydrotestosterone, is they are lipid soluble, they directly enter into the targeted cell. That would simply mean that the receptor that is going to be present inside the cytoplasm and not on the surface of the cell. When you talk about this receptor, the androgen receptor, that is going to be inactive in the first place, and the reason is very obvious. If there is no ligand, you do not want the activation of the receptor. So when the ligand comes, you need to activate the receptor then. So when you talk about the inactive receptor, there are particular proteins, the chaperones that are attached to this particular androgen receptor. They are known as the heat shock proteins, the HSP90 complex. And when the HSP90 complex that interact with the ligand, with that interact with the receptor, the receptor is going to be in its inactive state. Now, when the ligand come, you need the activation of the receptor because there is a signal, and in response to the signal, the receptor should get activated. So, when the testosterone or the dihydrotestosterone that comes, that interact with the ligand binding domain, the HSP90 complex is going to move away. You are going to see the dimerization of the receptor, and when it get dimerized, that would mean it is going to move into the active form. And when it is in the active form, that is going to move from the cytoplasm into the nucleus of the cell, and in the nucleus that is going to interact with the DNA, and when that interacts with the DNA, that is going to lead to the transcription of a particular set of the genes. And as I've told you in the previous slide, you have got the and nuclear the N terminal domain, then you have got the DNA binding domain. So the DNA binding domain, after the receptor that is activated, that interact with the androgen response elements, and when that interact with the androgen response element, that is going to lead to the transcription of important genes. Let me give you like some of the important genes that get activated when the receptor that gets activated. One of the important genes that is known is the prostate specific antigens like PSA, KLK3, and this is most commonly used as a biomarker for the androgen receptor activity. Another important gene that get activated, that is the prostate specific kallikrein 2, which is involved in the semen liquefaction. Another important gene, that is the NKX31, which is homeobox gene for crucial for the prostate development. You've got another important gene, the TMPRSS2, which frequently fused with the ERG in the prostate cancer. Uh, Another important one is the FKBP51, which is a co-chaperone that is very important in the regulation of the activity of the androgen receptor. You have got the IGF-1R, which are insulin like growth factor 1 receptor, and they are very important in regulating the cell proliferation. And then you've got the MYC, the FBXO32, which are important in the cell cycle regulation. So, this is just some of the genes which get activated when the androgen receptor gets activated. So, this is what is normally happening. But when you talk about the syndrome, the androgen insensitivity syndrome, what happens then? So we are talking about a defective signaling pathway in the androgen insensitivity syndrome. There are, you can say, testes, as I've told you. So there is going to be the normal hormone production, the testosterone or the dihydrotestosterone. They are going to be released into the bloodstream. They are going to enter into the cell normally. From this onwards, the problem starts. The hormone enter into the cells, but because of the defective androgen receptor, the androgen is not able to interact with the receptor. And when that is not able to interact with the receptor, that is going to create problem, because the HSP90 that is going to be in interaction with the receptor is going to be inactive all of the time. The reason is very obvious. You have got an abnormal receptor over here, and with the abnormal receptor, the testosterone cannot interact, and when that cannot interact, that would mean that the receptor is going to be the inactive form all of the time. You are not going to see any dimerization of the receptor, and when there is no dimerization of the receptor, that would mean there will be no activation of the receptor. And when there is no activation of the receptor, there is going to be, you are not going to see any kind of the gene expression of the genes that we just discussed. And when that is the problem, you are going to see an XY, which should be a normal male, but because of the problem with the androgen receptor, you are going to see the external characteristic of all that would be the female, but that would not be a female, and that would neither be a male. So this is how the androgen androgen insensitivity syndrome that works. We are going to continue the discussion in the next video.